Hello and welcome. Today I will be presenting a mini module called Generate Urgency. Generate Urgency represents the first module of the Leading Healthcare Improvement Curriculum, or LHI. The purpose of the LHI course is to give you the training you need to facilitate the success of your quality improvement initiatives. This mini module will provide you with an introduction of how to engage stakeholders to maximize the likelihood that they will view your project as important, relevant, and timely. This mini module is aimed to help you understand why it is important to create a sense of urgency around a problem, identify stakeholders, and frame the problem in a manner that gets others to see it as their own. Let's begin with why LHI is important and how it can help you with your project. The overall purpose of LHI is to provide you with the tools to facilitate the implementation of your project. Making organizational change is a complex process and undertaking that requires advanced skills in facilitating change at individual and organizational levels. These are the main topics we will discuss in this course. The process is depicted as a cycle, but as you can see, there are lines connecting all of the elements. That's because these elements can occur at various times, simultaneously, or repeat throughout the process. Today, we will start with Generate Urgency. As you move through the course, you'll be following the LHI project template to help guide you through the process. Presumably, you have already identified your problem after some data analysis, and now want others to collaborate in fixing the problem. Contained in this LHI project template are things you need to consider for generating urgency. Importantly, you need to have a clear understanding of the problem so you can successfully generate urgency with your stakeholders. LHI project templates and tools discussed in this video are available from the Coordinating Center and are distributed alongside session resources and pre-work. Before you can generate urgency, you must first clearly define the problem that you want to solve. Framing the problem helps you understand why the problem is important and identify areas that are outside the scope of the project. A common problem when developing or implementing a project is something called scope creep. Scope creep refers to the uncontrollable growth of the project's focus, where the project can slowly, or in some cases rapidly, become much larger than originally intended. It's important to define what is and what is not a part of your project's scope, so that your project is effective at producing change. Now let's talk about things that can prevent change initiatives from being successful. Rationally, you know change initiatives are important for patient safety, and we should all be doing them. But then you see the work involved in all of those meetings to discuss strategy. What if you need to change your routine? How will you feel about it then? Making system-wide changes can be hard to do without proper planning that accounts for the complex reasons that individuals and systems change. There are common reasons why people resist change. Sometimes people resist change because they are afraid of the self-sacrifice that will be required, especially when they already feel busy and stretched for time. When there's lack of trust in either leadership or the institution, it leads to the belief that leadership does not know what is best. Many times, people resist change because they are complacent with the status quo. A history of false urgency can also lead to a lack of confidence that change is necessary and/or likely to result from the change initiative. Understanding the differing opinions between stakeholders will also help you frame the problem in a way that appeals to each individual. To overcome natural resistance to change, you need to generate true urgency. The only way to effectively generate true urgency is to affect the way that people feel by winning over their hearts and minds. You will either need to take a problem that your stakeholders are having, understand it, and generate a project from that, or, if you already have a project, understand how the project is relevant to your stakeholders and let them see and feel the problem to make it their own. To generate urgency, you need to understand the context within which you wish to make change. Communicating with your stakeholders has two huge advantages. First, it lets you get to know people on a personal basis and understand their perspective. Secondly, it also allows them to see your side and get to know you. It shows that you are listening and truly want to make changes that benefit everyone. Storytelling can be a powerful way to draw people in through their hearts and minds and help them feel why the change is needed. This brings us to our next step in the LHI project template on stakeholders. To generate urgency, it is important to identify stakeholders and understand what is important to them. Understanding what they care about and prioritize can increase their buy-in in the project. We will use the stakeholder analysis matrix to help guide this process. This LHI tool, the Stakeholder Analysis Matrix, can help you identify stakeholders and consider what information you need to gather. The information on your matrix will likely change over time, but it's good to begin this process early. Use this tool to identify what is important to stakeholders and how they can help or harm your project. It is important to understand them as people with their own perspectives and motivations. As you interview key players in your organization, you will identify more stakeholders. After identifying your stakeholders, the next step is to talk with stakeholders about what matters to them. Make sure you gather information from a diverse group of stakeholders. Ask stakeholders questions, observe, and reflect to get a better picture about what matters to each stakeholder or group and how the intervention will impact them. Listening to stakeholders' perspectives is equally as important as making a good pitch, because sustainable change is change that fits the culture of the organization and the people within. By communicating with stakeholders, you are letting them know that their voice matters. Next, we'll talk about some strategies for how to gather information from stakeholders. When gathering information, you can interview individuals or groups. Start with broad, open-ended questions and work your way to more specific questions that will help you better understand stakeholders. Reflecting back what you hear to the stakeholder can be a useful communication tool. An example of a reflection is, "It sounds like it is especially difficult to complete the safety checklist on Wednesdays because that is your heaviest clinic day." Reflections communicate to the stakeholder that you are listening to what they are saying and create opportunities for clarifying what the stakeholder is saying. When thinking about your stakeholders, it is important to include people who will help sustain and maintain your project. When considering your stakeholders, think about who to include for long-term sustainability and not just those who can help get the project off the ground. Remember to identify individuals as stakeholders who can help you embed your project in the organization based on their unique strengths and capabilities as well as their role or title. Be creative when finding stakeholders with consideration for embedding the project into the organization. Throughout the year, we will continue to discuss using strategies and tools in the LHI bundle to work towards making lasting and meaningful change within your organization. Today, we have discussed how to generate urgency by defining the problem that you want to solve, identifying stakeholders, and communicating urgency to stakeholders. Defining the problem that your project aspires to solve is an important first step. Once you understand the scope of the problem, identifying stakeholders who may be impacted by the problem, as well as who may be invested in working toward a solution, is essential. Understanding stakeholders' perspectives can help you develop an effective communication strategy for generating urgency. Thank you for watching. We look forward to seeing you soon.